I've finally hooked up the LaserDisc player in the cinema and tested it on 3 different projectors. Within the glimpses of the films on screen in this video, you will see that the 2 DLP projectors create flickering lines that tend towards magenta across the screen in all of my cameras. These are, of course, not visible to the naked eye. Conversely, the older LCD projector does not cause any flicker in the camera. The most successful of the 3 seems to be the Optoma UHD 550X, but I also tried a 20-year-old Hitachi PJ TX200. This used to work very well with LaserDisc, but I suspect that perhaps the xenon lamp might need its mirror polished, as this machine hasn't been used in almost 8 years. The Optoma UHD 550X is a big projector, and that is why we had to purchase the smaller Optoma UHZ50, because the UHD 550X would not fit in the location we had to mount it after moving to this house a few years ago. I think I'd have got quite a few bangs on the head if we'd have tried it. Modern video projectors rarely come with legacy connections to enable convenient connection of older equipment, and hence the need to source gadgets to convert such outputs as SCARTs to HDMI. From this little box I hooked up to both Optomas, starting with the UHD 550X and the PAL LaserDisc of JAWS for the first test. JAWS is a very good disc, and even though the sound is mono, that sounded remarkably impressive. LaserDiscs have a reputation for coming with the original theatrical soundtracks before the later creation of what is colloquially known as near-field mixes for smaller home systems. Throughout the 3 days of testing, looking at and listening to LaserDiscs, I've been universally impressed by the soundtracks. Terminator 2 Judgment Day did not fit on a single disc, and hence there are 2 discs within this fabulous gatefold pack. I've never actually watched this LaserDisc all the way through, as it was only purchased to provide the Dolby Stereo soundtrack for re-recording my Scope Super 8 feature print in the early 1990s. It is the best source for such a purpose, and having now watched quite a lot of this fabulous release in here, I can confirm that the soundtrack is impressive and compares well to my memory of the equally fabulous sound from the 35mm print Ben Wales brought over last year. Owing to sighting the Hitachi and Optoma UHD 550X immediately at the porthole, the projected image was not as large as with the more distant ceiling-mounted Optoma UHZ50. However, after adjusting the settings of the UHD 550X to get the best from LaserDisc, most notably reducing sharpen back down to its lowest level, a surprisingly good image was achieved. It could be that the smaller image resulted in it looking perceptibly superior to that of the UHZ50, but I don't think that was entirely the case. No, I believe the UHD 550X is a better choice for LaserDisc projection, but it's a close-run thing. The UHZ50 did mean that I was able to project at just under 10 feet wide. It meant manually adjusting the zoom and focus, of course, plus adjusting the image shift so the image was located centrally and therefore fully enveloped by the top and bottom masking. While the image quality from LaserDisc is not exactly Blu-ray or 4K UHD standard, some of them are very good, and interestingly, of this batch, it is probably Terminator 2 and True Lies that impress me the most. How ironic when you consider the controversy both these great films caused with their 4K UHD releases and the over-processed imagery. Perhaps LaserDisc is a way to go for big fans of both of these films. True Lies is another gatefold pack with the film over 2 discs. At the time, these double discs cost £34.99, but we felt there was something special and worth the investment. A few years later, with the advent of DVD, many collectors quickly traded in their LaserDisc collections for just a few pounds each. Some of the LaserDiscs I subsequently purchased only cost me £1 each at film collector conventions. Again, the soundtrack on True Lies is sensational, and looking back, it was interesting that when Trevor from Double Bill Movies came over with the then new 4K UHD of True Lies for us to compare it to the Blu-ray, the DVD and the LaserDisc, that I thought the LaserDisc sounded the best of all. I didn't have the player hooked up in here that day though, so I thought this may have been something to do with having to listen to that through the system in our living room. It appears not though. My Pioneer CLD 1750 doesn't have an AC3 output, so this is only matrixed 4-channel Dolby Stereo, or Dolby Pro Logic as it's known for the home market, but it packs a mighty wallop in here. Players with AC3 are out there, so if you're interested in giving LaserDisc a go, I recommend finding a player with this facility. However, in here I don't think many will be able to differentiate the Dolby Stereo from the latest multi-channel digital soundtracks, and it's possible that at times we conclude that the latest digital track might sound inferior. This is something I need to investigate further, because I've found the same results with 35mm, where the digital tracks and the analog Dolby Stereo tracks have been indistinguishable. And on one occasion, in fact, the Dolby Stereo track was clearly superior to its Dolby Digital equivalent. Timecop did not look as good as T2 and True Lies, but was always well up to the job on our old Philips widescreen cathode ray television from early 1995. It just didn't stand up so well to being projected at almost 10 feet wide. This was a film I first saw in the Cineplex at Universal Studios Los Angeles, and I think it was opening night too, because the auditorium was packed. I would have shown the tickets from that great night, but unfortunately they have faded to almost nothing. Cutthroat Island was a great LaserDisc release. I thought it was one of the best image quality LaserDiscs of all, but on the big screen in here, just like Timecop, it didn't look quite as good as Terminator 2 or True Lies. It was still very good though, and better than Timecop, and I could happily sit in here and enjoy this film once again, which I will do very soon, given the fun I had revisiting all the discs throughout this test. There is only one disc in this Cutthroat Island set, but it's a gatefold pack, and that helps to make it feel even more special. Given that I'd done so much on the 4K UHD home video release of Aliens, I thought I'd take a look at the PAL Special Edition LaserDisc. This is another double disc, as the film is too long to fit on a single disc. It's contained over 3 sides, which does mean that even if you have a player that can play both sides of a disc, you will have to get out of your chair to put side 3 on at some stage. Aliens is not the best looking release, but given the controversy regarding the UHD release, anyone who is not happy with that, the Blu-ray or the DVD, might do best with one of the myriad LaserDisc issues of this great film. It's not up to the quality of any of the physical film prints, but it does have the same overall look of the film prints, and it certainly sounds as it should too. Backdraft is interesting because I had the masking set for the scope 2.40 to 1 frame, but it was quickly apparent that despite what it says on the beautiful gatefold cover, it's in a much taller aspect ratio. If I remember correctly, this was a Super 35 shoot, so perhaps we're seeing something closer to the full Super 35 frame here. NTSC discs were rarely of such good quality as their PAL equivalents, owing to there being 100 lines less information with NTSC. There were plenty of exceptions though, and although Stargate is not exactly one of them, it did produce the best example of Dolby Stereo sound I heard in here throughout all of these tests. This disc does also carry the Dolby Digital sound, so it will be interesting to compare that track to the analog Dolby Stereo output when I eventually track down a player with AC3 capability. And finally, many people regret not being able to see the original Star Wars films in their unaltered forms, so how about tracking down the NTSC THX LaserDiscs of each of these? Again, I only purchased this to re-record my Super 8 scope feature print in the early 1990s, but for anyone who misses those original films and would like a way to enjoy them through something different, these LaserDiscs might be an enticing prospect. The Empire Strikes Back is the last of the releases I thought I'd show today, and if this upload proves to be popular, I'll feature some more at some time in the future, and perhaps it will become a complete series. People have been asking me to show my whole LaserDisc collection for years, but I don't think that would be particularly interesting, so I thought showing a few at a time with examples of them on screen might be a better way to go, so I guess I'll find out now. Right, I think that brings me to the end. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like, perhaps subscribe if you haven't already. And until the next one, bye-bye for now.